Hello everyone. Enjoy the kitties for a moment as I realize that I forgot to open my chat window. And they're being very goofy. I don't know what happened to Tavi. Chai definitely knows her name, but we're not sure that Tavi is there yet. I don't know if anyone who's had multiple cats at the same time, like where they got multiple cats at the same time, has any tips for how you teach them what each of their names is. That would be helpful for me. But at least we got two. I mean, Corbin's probably not going to stay. He's going to be like, well, now that I got the delicious catnip, I'm going to go hang out with my big buddy kitten. Hold on, some key came up that I don't need. Now I got to know about the chat rules. As you know, Quindy always has to chide me about breaking all the chat rules. Hello, smallish Sam. Nightheart Gaming asks, are we pre-distracting the kitties before the stream? We are luring the kitties to the streaming area as part of what's happening. Hopefully they feel a little like having naps after this. But we did not lure the Chaos Goblin over, so we'll see what she does. She might, walk around on my desk because she's super helpful like that. Yep, bye Corb, you're a fickle creature. I know, you love Kevin better. It's okay. Now he's probably going to go talk to Kevin about snacks. And he'll be like, all right, that was nice, but now I want snacks. And Chai's going to stare at the wall because this is pretty potent catnip, I have to admit. I thought it was hyperbole. Because the description makes it sound like the best drugs ever or whatever. And then there were all these reviews that were also very like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. But they do seem to get a little blissed out. This is Chai's nappy time anyway, I think. Well, almost any time is nappy time for Chai. She does run around and have fun, but she appreciates sleep on a deep level, even for a cat. All right, let's see if I can... I'm trying a little something different with my setup, so this is quite close, and I also changed to this tan when I was looking at... Now, the problem is that I've made it hard to access vast swaths of my desk with this method. When I was checking my focus and stuff, it seemed like this guy was, I don't know, the lighter parts were glaring out a little. I mean, it is pretty high contrast in terms of, there's a notable amount of light color and a notable amount of dark color, and I wasn't sure if maybe the camera didn't like that, but if you recall, a couple of months ago, when I was working on her for Mermaid, I had a similar problem. If I stuck my hand behind it, it would look more like what I was seeing, and if I didn't, just this light-colored skin would really glare out. And I initially thought it was having something closer, but my guess is that a lot of cameras, their software expects that you're going to be filming yourself and your friends. They expect a certain amount of human skin tone-ish color in there, so the beigey seems to work a little better on that front. It does still seem like it has to be within a certain distance of the lens as well. So I just brought these two over. This is the one I worked on this the Monday before 4th of July and the Monday after 4th of July. And I still haven't done the red, but that'll probably be for another day. But just in case something I'm working on needs to dry, I figured I'd have an alternative option. But it is my intent to work on him again. So it may look like I haven't done much, and I certainly haven't done as much as I'd hoped that I'd done. Oh, look who's back for more, because these are the good drugs. Can we get you a little more in the shot? Here he is. So I had worked on the bone some And now you're just going to leave again. All right, we'll try it again. Chai back then. Sleepy Chai. Who is determined to stare at the wall for some reason. So I'm trying to do, not like OSL exactly, but where there is, you know, the light is coming from a specified direction and you can tell that by looking at the miniature. I'm also breaking the light up so the light itself is warm, and then the shadow side is going to be kind of illuminated by ambient light, and that's going to be cool. Is like what I'm trying to do. I think that this is probably too dark, and even the face, like I didn't really paint a lot of this arm yet. I think that's probably too dark for the shadow on the bone. But I got to a point where I'm like, I think I need to have some more on the miniature to make that assessment. So instead of getting distracted forever, I do need to get distracted and actually paint some of the bone that I just forgot was there, as I am want to do. But so this may look similar, but this is real black paint instead of just the primer, so it is darker, it's a little richer. And then I worked on this leather. So I was going for kind of a, like when originally made, it would have been like a really deep dark red. I'm not sure if I knocked the saturation down a little on my settings too, and I'm not sure if I knocked them down a little too much. But it would appear that maybe you can't fiddle. Oh, no, I just didn't have a source. There we go. Let me just put a little saturation back in. So I was trying not to make it cartoony, but there is kind of a blue tinge on top of that after I did the, so I kind of used the same colors for that, which are these colors that you can't see because you're looking at a cat, which are these colors, except then these I did mix with blue. But for old leather, I kind of wanted to go over it a bit, so I even used a little bit of gloss sealer. So I'm trying to get a bit of that sheen that leather has. I mean, really old leather doesn't really have a sheen anymore because it's all cracked and broken up, but you know, kind of going somewhere in the middle. I feel like, I don't know if I'm 100% happy with it, or if I think that my choice to kind of bypass actual red was not a good one. So I will stir these a little so you can see what my choice was. So these ones were more the shadow side, where I mixed like the similar colors that I used here. Well, actually, it's just that color. I mixed and I did this to myself too, didn't I? Requiem red. Oh goodness. That thing that I can't say. I mixed that with a pale blue, I think glacial mist. It was something that was kind of transparent because I wanted to keep the blue just a touch. But so this is the light side thing, and where I used something like a skin tone. I think I did use just a straight up skin tone with the Requiem red. And then this is actual Requiem red. And maybe I need to put these on a paper so you can see. This is Requiem red plus my good buddy blue liner. That is just straight up blue liner. And this is a mix of several things that I used as a glaze on the light side. That was my attempt to kind of get a little bit of the, hey Ro, GR, get a little bit of the color back in. But I think that since none of that adds up to red directly, that I might need to sneak a little red in. And much like the bone, if I go over that area multiple times, I'm not necessarily, it'll contribute to an impression of depth, is my hope. All right, let me find the sample thingy. All right, so this is Requiem red, which I use that as the foundation color on the dark side, but I started a little lighter on the light side to make sure that I was separating out, you know, my shadows and highlights. It doesn't look a lot lighter, but it's lighter. And then for making the marks and stuff, I had these, which don't look as contrasting on paper as they did in real life. There was a little bit of this for the end bit. So the idea is that it's like a really faded maroon, wine red, something like that. But I think it might be a little too faded. So that was the shadow color. And then this was the even more shadow color. Since most of that was going to be concentrated in the shadow areas, I wanted it a lot cooler than the rest. Plus, put these together, you kind of get purple. And this is the glaze that I put on the light side. The glaze that I put on the dark side is that one, and is completely dried out. And it's shiny on purpose. I put some gloss sealer in there. But after I did the glazes, I went back over them and did more, you know, leathery damage type thing. So I might work on that a bit more today. But look, where did he go? Okay. See, I lost my guy. But what I'm thinking is, before I get too final with anything, I think I need to deal with at least the bottom half, and if the bottom half, why not the whole thing, of the wood stuff, because I think it's just going to end up, sorry, I'm trying to get the light where you can see and I can see. I think I'm just going to end up getting frustrated by trying not to get paint on other things if I leave it until later. So I cannot show the photos that I looked up for this. I started actually, I'm like, well, I'll look up, you know, antique axes and antique, what was the other thing I decided was like a practical thing everybody must have had back in antique days? Hammers. But then I wasn't entirely happy with anything I'm finding. I'm like, fine, antique size and surprising number of hits. But if you've ever looked at old wood, it's really a lot more gray than it is brown. Like a lot. Like these are gray with just little bits of brown hints here and there. So I got out these. And I'm probably going to need to go darker than that. So that is Wolf Gray, Gug Umber, Mountain Stone. I've got some others here because I was already kind of using some of those for the bone. What else do I have that's dark? Well, there's rotting wood, but that's more like wood rotting in a wet environment. And I'm looking at things that have essentially dried out. And that's why they look so like that. But my trick is I need to not make it too similar to the bone or the teeth, which I am trying to make a little bit different. So there's like a bit of work on the teeth, but I haven't like really finished them. So all of these things are kind of in the same color family, really. But I need to try to make sure that through the textures and through little color tweaks, that they don't look all the same, basically. All right, umber is a wonderful color, but not the most coveriest color. And here's, so the Gug Umber in the Pathfinder line is a little more gray. I guess this isn't available anymore. Probably because it was always very transparent and it was in a line where it wasn't supposed to be transparent. Usually when I paint things for the stream, I try not to use special edition paints or things that have been canceled. For this particular project, since I'm also painting it not on the stream and for Ron and stuff, I went ahead and let myself off that leash. Sorry, guys. You probably don't need the amount of paints that I'm using here. I'm just trying to keep some color variation at the front of my mind. So, this may not be very opaque, but we'll find out. But it's interesting, so, you know, go on YouTube sometimes, as I imagine many of us do. And one of the guys I follow on there, I think it was Squidmar. And he had a guest person that he introduced like they were a very recognizable name, but I did not recognize their name, and I do not recall it at this time. But they were talking about how they both like Games Workshop paints, and even Squidmar did he did like the most thorough comparison of paint lines that I've seen, and Reaper Paint scored very high in his paint comparison thingy. I don't know if Quinny might even be able to give us a link to the paint comparison thingy. But in this video, they were talking about how, they'd run out of X color and Y color, and they went and got some more, and it didn't seem the same. So they were going to do a little test, because the one guy still had some in his old bottle. I don't think Squidmar did. I think the guest had some of that color left. And there were a couple of colors, actually, that I think they tested. And they are not the same. And their belief is, occasionally there's variation. Occasionally you can't get the exact same pigment. It's pretty rare for our kind of thing. Most of the pigments that we're using are not even most. I would say all of the pigments that we're using are common, and it's not going to happen that often that like a whole factory or business or whatever that sells these pigments goes out of business. I think they said they thought this one, that they had originally been getting stuff from a Russian supplier, so that might have been the thing. But their belief is really that they probably intentionally changed it to be more competitive, or to appeal more to their primary market, and especially since the Army Painter came out with, they reformulated their paint and made it a lot more opaque. And I totally get the desire for opaque paint, but I've been making a lot of choices here that relate to paint opacity, but not all of those are, I want super opaque paint. Some of them are very much, I do not want super opaque paint. I just want a tinge of blue on that side and a tinge of orangey red on this side. So it would have been a lot trickier to balance that out if I'd picked like the most opaque paints that I had. And I'm trying to get a lot of hints of color in general. And often, yes, you can thin paints, but a paint that's somewhat transparent is often also a paint that has a pretty powerful color punch. So, reds and yellows, they can be very rich colors, but they're usually transparent. And there are certainly some blues that are a little more on that side. It's not as bad with blue, but phthalo blue is kind of transparent. And phthalo blue is the basis of the vast majority of miniature paints, if not all. There are multiple kinds of phthalo blue, so there are some pigments that if you heat them or do different things to them, it can change the color that they show, and phthalo seems to be one that can be expressed in a pretty large number of ways. Well, decent, not as large as like earth colors. You can make, earth, orange, brown, yellow, red out of the same earth color pigment. If it's synthetic. If it's natural, you have to go find it in the ground, but it's still the same chemical makeup. But that's why you have stuff like sienna, because the best version of that color used to be mined around sienna. There's the trade between Aboriginal tribes in Australia was apparently pretty heavily based on the variations of ochre type colors that they could get in one place versus another. So there was like a social and religious significance to the colors, as well as, you know, people just like color. So Quindy has shared part 1 of the paint comparison video. If you are watching this later and don't have access to the chat, just look for Squidmar, which is Squid, M-A-R, paint comparison. And it is 2 videos because they compared a lot of stuff. So I think they kind of got their finalists in the first one, and then I don't remember now. I did watch them all, but what my brain chooses to remember. I was marveling at that the other day. It's like, why do I still remember this and I don't remember, like, you know, anything important? But there we are. So, most of you are probably already aware of what this guy is, but he's Null the Reaper. And he is a 3D print, actually, so I didn't have to glue anything. Happy day. Always love not gluing things. There's a reason I hardly ever glue things on the show, and that's because I would prefer to just fail at that in private, I think. I consider it a minor glue curse. It's not the end of the world or anything. I mean, there was one year I painted the Reapercon Sophie, and I couldn't get her wings to stick. I think it was the wings or the tail of the guy. I couldn't get something to stick. Like, I took the picture, I managed to take the pictures, and then it all just fell apart. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to try to put it back together before I go to Reapercon. I'm going to bring it to the show and make Michael Proctor fix it for me. So I sometimes do stuff for him too. So he'll make me prep things because I'm way more thorough about prep. But anyway, so it's a 3D print. Neat Pete says, I prefer to fail at that in private. Well, I just don't think it's very interesting to watch me like try to hold something together and that it doesn't stay together. They did make me glue, I don't think it was last year's Reapercon, I think it was the year before. They do this super fun thing at Reapercon that's the bones mashup, and there's just like all these bones on a table, and you grab pieces and you glue them together and come up with like new creatures, and it's super fun. But they asked a few of us to do it on camera, and I'm like, all right, but we all know the glue curse is here, right? And it told, like, I couldn't get anything to stick. I'm like holding a tail onto a thing going, okay, well, let's imagine that this is together. And then Michael's sitting next to me and everything's fine for him. But I think Tish had some glue failure too. But I did warn them. I'm like, I will come on, but you're just gonna watch me fail to glue things. All right, that does need to dry a second. So I'm going to mix up a somewhat randomly selected bit of color to, before I forget, because like I'm so gonna forget to paint the shoulder bone that I didn't paint already. I'm gonna, if I have some paint on it, I will at least see it and go, oh, that doesn't look painted. And then hopefully I will fix that. So it's in the light side, so I want my warmer style bone. I found a lot of examples of this. Again, I didn't go searching for this on the you're allowed to use these photo sites. I just did search for old bone. And there were plenty of examples. And also a very distressing article that informed me that our bones shrink and sag as we age. So part of the reason facelifts don't look right is because the underlying structure has changed. And it's like, great. Like, I was already so excited about getting old. What a wonderful thing to hear. Like 2 weeks before your birthday. Super encouraging. But, it is what it is. So last week, if you were here for when I was painting the skin, I used like 47 different colors to try to mix it up. I did that the second time I worked on the skin, and then I was like, okay, some of these I'm really not using much of. I'm just mixing variations with other things, so I will tone it down to like 20 things. But part of that is just because there's so much bone, area-wise. I want to make sure that I make it visually interesting. And my examples that I found, they did have a lot of, there was a lot of like reddish brown, and there were some more gray style bones, but a lot of them were like this warm color that I liked, at least the ones I found that were, I think, on archaeology sites and stuff. So I'm trying to, still work with the idea of the shadows and highlights that we need to do, but add in little, I don't know how much is coming on the camera. So there's like, I'm not going for a perfectly smooth finish, because, my example bones were actually rougher than that. Like the color variations tended to be on the ends of the bones. And I'm choosing to emphasize the shapes, which is usually what we do in miniature painting, instead of the built-in color variation. I'm not sure how you would put it. But maybe I need a little more rusty brown in a few spots around here. And I don't know if you can see, I think you can see the difference between like the bluish parts and the other parts. I think I probably need to go a little lighter on that. I'm trying to keep him dark and creepy because I know that's what Ron likes. And also, is appropriate to the character, who probably hasn't been maintaining his clothing. Like, can you go shopping when you're like a Lish guy? Probably not. I guess you need minions. Everybody needs minions. But I'm working on the assumption that these are his old things. And they have also experienced the ravages of time. Smallish Sam is wondering, is that why our bones start to creak? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's more like ligaments and losing I don't know, that there's kind of fluid, I think, in between some of the bones and joints. Or like little pads of cartilage or something. They say when things pop, it's just air moving around, but I don't know. There's some pops that are like that, and then there's some pops that are kind of like, well, it seems more structural, but okay. I'm trying to get back to doing my stretches from physical therapy a little more, and I need to do the strength stuff too, but my back problem seems better. I found a couple new stretches too, or like if you have a sore back, get a tennis ball, put it in a sock, find a wall, and roll that sucker around your back. And you can even like kind of press and hold. It sounds like it's gonna hurt, and certainly you can do it too hard. But in my experience, it actually feels amazing. It's like the closest you can get to getting a massage on demand without having another person around. But I've never, it's like, how do you get your upper shoulders, right? Because the tennis ball is round and your shoulders are round and the ball can only do so much. And even with the sock providing a little friction, it's like, there's just some parts that I never really could reach. And then I was looking up, my neck was really bothering me. And so my main problem is usually like in the rhomboid area, but when it gets bad, the sides of my neck hurt too. So I was like, all right, what are the bones in the neck, or the muscles in the neck? Like, what could this problem be? And I'm like, levator scapulae, you look like the bad children. So I looked up some stretches for that. And after that, this video played that had the guy doing the tennis ball thing, but he was kind of like, if you bent down and were trying to run into the wall with the doorway. So you're just on the corner of the doorway and you got the tennis ball and you can kind of push it into your upper shoulder that way. And that and the stretch are pretty magic, I have to say. So I'm still, I can't paint this guy hours and hours a day because I just can't sit in the same position for too long before, for more than a couple hours before. And that's actually a big improvement. A couple of hours, I'm not necessarily complaining about. That's a big improvement. But for the past few years, that has been a problem. So I'm trying to pace myself. And then when I go to there's another chair I can sit in. I sit a different way, and I can sit there a little longer. I can't paint there, but I can work on my class handout and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to be prepared for ReaperCon. I would like to be, considering how slow I have to go, I would like to be further ahead than I am, but it is what it is. Coat on here. Yes, that is a nicer composition too, with the shoulder actually even slightly painted. So I haven't really done anything on the robes at all other than make them real black instead of just primer black. But my idea is to do the warm, cool thing there too. So to use, colors kind of like what I'm painting on this handle for the warm side. These are warm browns or warm grays. Then I found, what do I have for cool grays? Well, that's blue liner. All right, I swear I had more than one cool gray. Oh, very odd. Like, I know they were over here. But this is one. This is another Pathfinder. Well, we're probably not working on the black today, so I'm not going to worry about it. Just looking behind my little shield thing. I hope there's some. At least back on the shelf, if nothing else. Alright, so that is not dry. But what I will do is look up where my light shadow split is on that. And I took those photos so I can show them to you. Alright, so I have two photos. The one on this side, I just use the main light, and then the one on this side, I have another light further away to kind of do the ambient light. I've actually mainly been using these ones. I like this reflected light on the arm bones, so I'm probably going to do it that way, which it's a little bit here. And then also the temperature of my lights is reversed, so the main light is cold in my example, and the ambient light is warm, but I'm painting it the other way around. But what I need to know is about the axe handle. So it's pretty much just that little edge. Like that. Okay. I will keep this off to the side for my reference. which is why I took those photos for my reference. It's been very handy because then, you know, if you're trying to do everything at once, you know, figure out where the light goes, what colors are you using, how is the blending going. It's a lot. We asked a lot of ourselves. So splitting it up by figuring out where the light is via this photo reduces the number of things I have to think about while I paint. Oops. And then gives me time to enjoy nice audiobooks. All right, now I've lost my code number. There it is. So I'll mix my cooler version, needs to be both cooler and darker. Although before that, maybe I want to do like just a basic wash. And this is also not currently available, I don't think, Rogue Shadow. I don't remember. I know it was originally a promotional thing, but then I feel like it came out in something else and I'm not remembering what. I am going to gray that down just a little because it'll be easier to add brown in than take it out, I think. And this gloopy mess is why I originally was using one of these to do the very watery things, but I'll test it. Yeah, that's probably good. Might be a little too much, might be a little too little. But I'm only, you know, I haven't done a lot of work on this section, so it's not that big a deal either way. And I am just going to put it all over because, you know, I'll do the shadow stuff afterwards and turn it bluey and darker. And then apply a wash just in those sections if I need to. So this is kind of an interesting example, at least I hope it's visible on the video, of how color is relative and why that, you know, that's a thing that trips us up a bit, because I think we tend to get, well, here's my old wood recipe, I would just always use this, and here's my bone recipe, I would just always use that, and most of the time it'll work, and then you'll get these moments where it's like, why isn't this working? Because color is always relative. Like, to me, this looks surprisingly brown. And it's this color. Well, I put it on here. It's this color, which I would not really call surprisingly brown. But in the context of, you know, especially the cool green over here and the red and then this golden color, I think it's just the context is making it look a little browner. I'm not worried about it because, you know, that's for the shadows. I want a little bit of brown. I have plenty of ways to introduce more gray at this point because I've got to bring out these textures. But it's just one of those things that I think is like part of why color's so frustrating for people, is that you'll have these situations where something that usually works doesn't, or a color looks much different than you expected it to because you're using it in a different context. And how you perceive a color is affected by all of the colors around it. So something can look a lot darker, a lot lighter, a lot more blue or yellow or whatever thing, depending on what's around it. haven't really painted his fingernails yet. In fact, I haven't really finished the whole hand. The light color is too light, I think, or too dark on the hand, so I need to get it like closer to that. And then work on the dark color. And that'll probably take a hot minute to dry, so I might need something else to do in the meantime. I'm wrestling still with non-metallic versus metallic. I'm very on the fence still. I think, metallic has the benefit of, it literally is a different texture, so it adds visual interest that way. The piece is certainly, a bigger piece. Metallics tend to work a little better because, natural light is already working for you more on a larger piece. It'd be interesting. I've certainly done metallics, but I haven't done a lot of metallics. I think it would be just probably a little bit faster because I am so slow at non-metallics. But I don't know for sure. So I did go get some reds, particularly violet red, which is like a pinky red, and this one. So play a little more with the armor. I want these ribbons coming off the crown, or they're probably not ribbons, pieces of cloth. I think I also want them to be red, and they may be a little brighter. I decided. This one seems very gunked up. You are all very quiet today. Is it because you need to see more Kitty? Let's see more Kitty. She's so cute, all curled up. Chai's job is just being adorable. Well, she thinks her job is being the queen bee, but I think she's getting challenged for queen bee-ness a little bit. I don't think Tabby is always having it. But somehow their competitions relate to who washes who. I'm like, okay. It's like half nice, half passive-aggressive. I don't know. Wow, I almost had a paint lid roll off the table, and that like hardly ever happens. I throw things around a lot. If you've been here before, sometimes I throw things around a lot, but usually they don't roll away from me. All right, so this was the color I had used, or the shadow, for like just mixed in directly there. And there's my Requiem red. I'm probably gonna need more of this. Didn't plan it out well enough. Yeah, I think we probably do need that step. Even if, it shouldn't turn red. But it should have a little more red. But what we might need to do is, if I could keep track of my paint for 5 seconds, that would be helpful. If I put a bit of that darker color in, it goes super pinky. Maybe that's not good. Well, I'll give it a shot. I'll use the brighter one. Let's see how that goes, because there's more pink in that one, so maybe that's what happened. Yeah, that one might be better. All right, so heraldic red. But I don't think I want to use any of it like just straight. I think it needs to be toned down with these other colors. And then do I need to change the shadow color? Honestly, I can use both of these even, with the variation. I looked up, I couldn't find a lot of pictures of like worn red leather. I found a lot more for brown and black. But long, long ago, I had like leather boots that were that color. It was like a super soft leather, so it did kind of wear out like that. All right. Just looking for little brushes to do the texturing. Sometimes I like to do that with brushes that are already kind of a little beat up. So yes, there's a lot of going over, and maybe there's a more efficient way to do this, but achieving depth by doing multiple things seems like a reasonable way to do it to me. Maybe I'll share up here as long as possible. Oh, you guys cannot see that because I was in cat view. Sorry, you didn't see all the painting stuff too. So this is the mix with the violet red, and this is the mix with the heraldic red, and then those are with heraldic red. So yeah, it's like not like a glaringly different thing, but I think as it starts to go over the surface that it will kind of add a little more color back in. So I don't know if you can tell how obvious that is, but you know what? I feel like I need to fix the light a bit on my filters as well. Taken that down for the glaring out originally, but I think we solved the glaring out in a different problem. I mean, in a different way. So now I don't need to do that. So yeah, this is one of the Reaper sables, and it's not like totally beat up, but it's not as precise as what I prefer for precision painting, basically. So, but it still has a function. So even when you pay for more expensive brushes, it's not like once the fancy point wears off that they're useless. In fact, because if they're kind of beat up, you can get these like random textures better than you can trying to randomize everything yourself. Like, human brain is very bad at randomizing. All right, I'm gonna skip the really ready one until I see, what a bit more. What this color does. So this is basically what I was doing last night, just lots of little smushing and dotting. I did actually start with the dry brush style brushes and then switch to these. And I think that that is a nice way of distinguishing the light side more. I think I do still need to bring stuff up on that side, but yeah, I think that that is, you know, I don't think it's blatantly red, but it's enough red to make the intention of that better, because I wanted to do the straps and stuff in brown. And I think it would have just looked like everything was brown, just a more reddy brown. Oops, I put the wrong thing in there. Go a little lighter even. So I'm gonna have to put back in some of my dark lines probably, but that's okay. So I tried something, it didn't work exactly how I wanted, and like we were talking about the other day, a more useful response to that is to try to figure out what exactly you don't like and what you could do differently. And sometimes you just take that information and bring it to the next thing. You don't have to fix the original thing every time or anything. Back in, you know, if I'm worried that I lost the darkness or I just want a little more texture-y here and there, I'll come back in with my Requiem red. Got my in-between one too here, that's true. That will probably help add a little more red to the darker areas. So they're light side shadows. So there's like a shadow side and a light side, but within those, there are still shadows and lights, which I realize is confusing, but it is useful to think of it that way. And if possible, you don't want the lights on the dark side to be lighter in value than the shadows on the light side, but I don't think that's always possible with miniatures, so I don't like get too stressed out about it, but it is important that your light side actually be lighter in value than the dark side. So hopefully that looks kind of old red instead of kind of pink. But I don't know. I guess you all can let me know what you think. And I probably need to do the same thing, kind of mixing in the blue, make it a little more purple on the dark side. Yeah, let's see what happens if we do that. Oh, gargoyle gray. That was one of my cool grays too. So I had used the heraldic red. We'll try that again. But mixing it with blue for the lighter color instead. Now this blue is a slightly transparent color, so I'm going to have to add a higher amount of it than I did with this color, which started lighting things up right away. But that also means it should be a little less, the chance of it going chalky or whatever should be a little less. So I picked a transparent blue intentionally to keep the effect pretty subtle. I don't think I ever finished my story about the Squidmar thing. So the Squidmar and the other painter were both disappointed about this shift that Games Workshop has made for pretty much the reasons that I've been talking about. The colors are more opaque now, but they are also less saturated, so they don't mix as nicely, and they don't act the way these guys were expecting exactly anymore. What was interesting is that it's kind of a stealth move. Like, you'd think if they were doing this because they think it's a feature, which presumably they do, and they are, that they would mention it. But I don't know if they kind of gear their decisions to the assumption that, you know, it's mostly younger people playing their game and they play for a couple years and then go do something else. So I guess they don't even figure it's worth making a deal about. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting. And interesting how when we get our little favorites that we will notice when they're different. We'll be like, no, what happened? There have very occasionally been changes in the Reaper line, usually because of changes in supplies. So not necessarily the pigment, but the other supplies, like the foundation paints, the foundation of the paint, you know, the binders, essentially, in a way. But it affects the color. So the mix of stuff affects the color. To a greater or lesser degree, but depending on how nutty you are about your favorites and how good you are at spot the difference puzzles, I guess. Oops. So those turned out to be, I had put the base color on that side of the leather scale panels, leather panels, I guess. And then as I was working on some other bits here just now, I realized I had not painted that either, so I thought maybe I needed to go do that. I will probably have to do another shot of the blue over stuff. Well, and I'll have to do a little bit of glaze over everything, I think, because I want that slightly you know, you can still see the slight sheen on these back panels. And now I've put enough matte paint on things that I don't think you can't see it on the front anymore. But multiple glazes is rarely a bad thing. Definitely a way to get more color richness and depth. And quick, so glazes are not painful. All right. I will try it on the back for a bit. I did add just enough sheen that I kind of have to work on what my orientation is so that I can see what's really there and not reflective of it. So usually this is what I do. I'll do stuff like this first, and then kind of where I kind of see a hint that what I did looks like a scratch, I'll just make the ones that I think look cool into scratches. But with an emphasis on where things are more likely to get worn, which in this case would be these outer edges. Or hit, or whatever. Yeah, I think we did need a little. I mean, I'm going to still have to blue that down, but we needed a little more. Here, I think these panels were just looking too flat. And I want my shadows to be dark and moody, but not, you know, I'm not going for full O. If I was doing full OSL, I might leave this the way it is. Like, to create the light, the trick really is you gotta have some stuff that's dark, and you kind of have to accept that you can't show all the details on the dark side if you're really trying to say, man, look at how bright this torch is, or whatever. But I'm not, you know, I want like a bit of that effect, but I'm not really doing a light source, so I do want some information, some more information than that in the shadow areas. Oh, I think it's cat dinner time. We're gonna say goodbye to Chai for a minute, maybe. I mean, she's, there you go, taking her time. But I can hear my husband doing stuff with the bowls in the background. And Tabby's hilarious because she gets very excited. She hears the noises, she runs, and then sometimes she stops like 2 feet later, so she's in the hallway but she's not in the kitchen. Or she gets almost to the kitchen, or then she sees me and she gets distracted and she goes where I am, so then I have to go to the kitchen if I want her to go to where her dinner is. And it's like, little dude, you like food. I don't understand why this is challenging for you. So this is the red mixed with the Requiem red, and I will probably need to put some shadows back in there. But now it's, so I guess if we go like this, we can kind of, wow, I feel like my lighting is just weird today. We can get a look. Okay, why is it not focusing very well? I guess because this is bigger than what I normally ask the camera to do. We'll try going down here. So I think you can see the difference between the light side and the dark side. Hey, Zachary. I'm continuing with Null here. I painted red leather last night, but I wasn't entirely happy with it. Well, super dark red leather, and it didn't have enough red, so that's what I've been working on now while waiting for my wash. I think is almost dry on the wood. What else have we been doing? We had some cats, but then Kevin gave cats dinner, so now we don't have some cats. Probably because Corbin was demanding the dinner. I saw this little meme thing yesterday, which I've seen it before, but it still cracks me up. It's like if you have something that you want to do on a daily basis, but you're bad about remembering it, like taking medication or something like that, start giving your cats treats at that time, and they will be very good at reminding you what time it is. And that seems pretty plausible to me. Ugh, the smell of the cat food is starting to hit me. It's just so gross. I don't know why it's been like bugging me more than usual lately. It's like, ugh, I love you guys, but your food is repugnant. I think that's like a matter. Maybe we'll just go up to the lightest one and be more judicious about this. Cat alarm clock's brilliant, says Green Users. Yeah, it seems like it would be pretty effective. Corbin's rarely more than a half hour in either direction on meal times. Every now and then it'll be like, wait a minute, wasn't it cat dinner like 2 hours ago? Where are the cats? Why aren't they yelling at us? And we can look for them and make sure, because it's like, you guys are normally really on the case with this. Let's see. I'm not sure I really painted that upper part enough in the first place. It's definitely looking different between the dark and the light. I don't know if I feel like I need to go up just a little lighter on the dark side. Partly because if I do want to do glazes and stuff, that's gonna bring the color back a little darker, so it's good to overshoot when you know you're gonna paint over stuff, do washes, stuff like that. did like, and I have lost most of it now, but there was kind of this like bluish glow in the shadow areas in some places where that wash gathered, and I liked that effect. So I want to bring that back. I need to get cat treats for Tiberius Rex, the terrible tooth and claw Esquire. What kind of treats does he like? Our cats are like way too into Temptations. It's like they clearly are the junk food of cat snacks. When Archer first got sick, we went and got all these like healthy foods and snacks and stuff, and they wanted none of it. They're like, no, Burger King. Give me cat Burger King. Something crunchy and good for teeth. We'll go sample the treats at the pet store. All right. So what I haven't done is the little scratches. I don't know how entertaining that is to watch, but I'll do a few and then probably try to work on the axe handle for a minute. That's true, I have my shadow color. Let me actually block in the shadow color on the axe handle as soon as I remember what I did with my phone. That's why I had that set up. It's for my picture reference. And kind of where the light is right now is actually pretty close to where the shadow color goes. Not quite there. Goes in a little. Then right from here to here, wraps around, I think. Not gonna be fanatical about it. I'll go ahead and put some there too. Just pull that back a little. And yeah, I have even gone a little too far in. But yeah, this is why I wanted to work on this before I put in too much more on the shadow side of the bone, because, and definitely the black cloth. Because this thing is in the way. But I will just soften these edges a little. I probably could wait until after I did some wood graining and highlighting and stuff, but just to kind of show you how what just does look like a blob of paint. It's not that hard to start working it in. Many brushes out today, and none of them are the one I'm going to use for the wood grain, I don't think. Maybe this one. It probably is this one. One day I'll do that thing I threatened to do and develop a marking system. So I know which are the super pointy. So I'm following the sculpted texture, but there are places where I'm kind of probably going to add a few more wood grain bits. Which may also end up meaning adding more dark ones. I don't have to assume that the wash did everything I might have wanted. They very rarely do. And here's where you don't have to worry about having a shaky hand. You want the line to wiggle. So you hold the brush a little further back. That'll help. The more we clench up, the more control we have. But the harder it is to get, freer lines like this. Now holding the guy where I can get in there is my challenge. I don't think it's going to focus on the right part, but we can hope. I kind of want a little less gray too. It's pretty gray. Maybe I went over graying and I need to put back just a little brown. The dark side I might do a little bit greenish. I don't know, I've been doing a skin greenish, so maybe that's not a great plan. But much like the texture on the bones or the texture on the leather. If I came back and did this over and over again with different versions of colors, that could only help. I may or may not do that. This handle is not the centerpiece of the store. I mean, it's important he has a scythe and everything, but this is really like my focal point. So I don't necessarily want to get too detailed and interesting where I'm further away from that. But I'll see how it looks. If it looks like fake painted on texture, then I'm definitely going to go do some more stuff. It does seem less stressful than trying to do this, for like a gaming scale guy. Don't know why. Oh, that's how I'm getting paint on there. Now I know. All right. Let's see. What other color can I put on there? Let me go look at my giant bag of colors over here. Actually, yeah, let's do some of this dark brown. There was a little drop of water there, and this is an area, doing this kind of texture, I probably want more opaque paints. If you have super transparent paints, if you have paints that are fairly transparent, like reds and stuff, it's harder to do texture with those colors without adding a little bit of white or something. Because there's kind of a sweet spot between, seeing the texture and it being like really super too obvious and painted looking. All right. I guess I don't think I've cracked the complete code on this setup. We might have to work on the light a bit more. So my example one that had a nice close-up picture, it did have little spots of brown that were a bit brighter like that, but they weren't everywhere. So I'm going to do the same thing with this and just kind of drop them in here and there. And they were more spots rather than just being about the wood grain, but since I'm trying to get this wood grain going, I'm going to focus on that for now. But yeah, the brush is really doing most of the work here because you get that nice Pointy point. Let's try some of this one. So, is anything else interesting to talk about that I've read lately or anything? You know, apart from the sagging bones story that I can't get over. What else? I don't know. Maybe I haven't. Been, well, we watched Exploding Kittens on Netflix. So that's based on the art of this guy, the oatmeal, that I'm going to guess the vast majority of you are familiar with, even if you don't realize, because he makes the kind of funny little comics that people will share, observations about life and whatnot. He's got an Office Cats series too, with these cats in little ties. But then a while back they made a game, Exploding Kittens, so it's got his art, and I think you're actually trying not to explode your kittens, but there's all these like different little cats and goofy things and stuff. So I was kind of like, I don't exactly understand how this is going to be a show. And I guess I would say that it's not, you know, it's not like everything from the game is in there or anything. But I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. There is a nice story arc. There's some goofy fun. So I liked that. And I liked the guy who does the comics as if it's aliens talking about stuff. Ugh, why can't I remember any more than that? But anyway, there's a TV show version of that now as well, but that I think is on the Apple Plus. And we really like that. Strange Planet. That's what it is. So he shares his stuff freely on. I think they both share their stuff freely online, but I know the Strange Planet guy has a few books because I have them. So yeah, I don't know. The lighter grays just aren't working for me. Oh, we also watched recently Poker Face. So it's Natasha Lyonne, who did Russian Doll, if you're familiar with that. And it's this really kind of interesting mix. Like they even use the font from the old 70s, you know, special mystery shows like with Columbo and stuff. So it's like got that kind of a vibe in the filming of it too. But it's also very much, you know, modern characters and situations and stuff. And I really... It ends up... It is kind of almost more of an anthology show. Like, there is a plot that runs through the whole thing, and it is significant. But it's also kind of... Each episode is a mystery in itself, and you don't necessarily have to know everything about her to enjoy them. Now the shadow parts look weird because I haven't done anything there yet. So let's maybe do something there. I'll see how going more blue works. I'll probably end up putting some green in too. This is much more chaotic than I normally make my palette. So I'm like, what do I want? Where is it? Oh, I guess I also never finished explaining how you can get one of these guys if you want one. He is one of the I'm not very wording today, am I? One of the things you receive when you go to, or well, you have to buy the ticket. You don't necessarily have to show up to the Reaper Hall of Fame, Reaper Ed Pugh Memorial Hall of Fame induction and meet and greet on Wednesday, which will also include delicious barbecue. I'm already excited about that. And I think there's a trio of paints that you get. And a special pokey tool. Not this, but different design, but this concept. And also you get to find out who the next meet and greet person is, and watch me and Quindy try to share my shirt. Because she didn't get a shirt. And I'm only going to boil to death if I wear it much. I'm so happy it's finally gotten a little bit cooler here. Brutal there for a minute. I'm sure it will come back around for us. It's not like August is normally so balmy here. So I'm not really looking at my reference pictures much. I'll probably have to go back and look at my reference and see if I kind of need to tweak some stuff here and there. I mean, hopefully this is a special treat because I very rarely paint miniatures that Ron has expectations about on stream. So that I can make sure I actually can see and be boring, fuss about. But since he's big, I figured maybe I could do some of that on stream. This might be too light, but I guess we'll find out. Oh, varying the pressure helps when you're doing stuff like wood grain too. You want some places where it's thicker, or the color is more noticeable. Just trying to make that shadow makes sense a little bit, which I'm not 100% sure that it does, but hopefully once there's more of a pattern of light and shadow, it will be clearer in context. Or you can all come up to it and look at it in person and tell me that it didn't work at all. And then I'll know more for next time. Probably need a darker line on this side as well. I mean, I think the shadow's still very evident, but from a variety point of view. Let's see, what did I make over here? That was the wash. I don't think that's what I want. Yeah, I don't think that's what I want. Let's see. Bit of that and that. And then some blue liner, maybe. Blue liner fixes everything. Oh, Raiders. Hello, the Free Heathen and friends. Thank you for joining us. This is the Reaper channel, and I'm the person who writes the Reaper Learn to Paint kits, but I do a lot of different things on my show, and today I'm working on this guy, who's a special ReaperCon figure. I was just talking about how you get him, actually, which is to buy a ticket to the meet and greet, which it's Wednesday, right, Quindy? Wednesday night. And if you can't make it to the actual event, you would still get your goodie bag, I believe. Then if any of them are left, they're going to go up for sale in the Reaper booth at the convention. And if there are still any after that, then they will go up at reapermini.com. But there are lots of good reasons to come to ReaperCon. As Free Heathen says, it's a sweet con. It's a great place to hang out with a bunch of people who like to geek out about miniatures. And yeah, there are classes and stuff too, but the hanging out and geeking is the highlight, I think, for most of us. This is probably not dark enough, but give it a shot. The original shadow color back there. So Quindy has shared the information about ReaperCon in the chat. Hopefully some of you will join me there. I really enjoyed getting to meet some people that I, kind of mostly know virtually in person last year and the year before. I mean, I guess all the years really, because before we did this with the hanging out live, we hung out on the forums and stuff. So it was asynchronous hanging out, I guess. I kind of feel like I might need to just go straight blue liner for a few lines. Oop. I'm trying a different backdrop system today, and I don't 100% know if it's working, but I think it's showing the colors a little more accurately, I think. Oops. Well, that I didn't point. Although I guess he would just get another nick then. I mean, that's what happened here. It just kind of, the way I was applying the paint, those look like little places where he maybe had a battle boo-boo. And I thought it was kind of cool. So I emphasized it. You can tell I'm not super used to painting something this big, because I don't know how to hold it. So yeah, even though I use that soft blue, I think there's still a little bit of a chalky look in some of the lighter lines on the shadow side, so I'll probably goof around with this some more. At a later point. I think I probably need to just kind of get to a point where I've done the steps that I'm going to do for now, and then take that moment that I talk about to put them down and look at them and assess when I've been out of painting mode for a minute. Zachariah says these cameras have a slight green bias, but it's fixable in the OBS streaming software. So my main camera is actually not a document camera anymore. It's an old iPhone. So this is a document camera. And I need to spend some time looking at the stream on my other monitor, because this monitor, I'm not sure. I don't think it's correct, but I'm pretty sure that my everyday monitor is better. So unfortunately, the way my painting desk is set up is like backwards and opposite to my computer desk. So my husband just dug up an old monitor he had lying around so that I could see the stream. I used to have like a laptop that I did it on, so I could see the chat. It was a lot harder to tell if things were in focus. What? No, that seems like a bad time. I thought I would try. What do I got over another creamy color on the light side. Yeah, I didn't realize for many years that you can, it doesn't default to it, but you can set the iPhone camera to do video in 4K, which seemed like better resolution than through the document camera. And the color was a little less. Like this thing, I don't think I adjusted it today. I normally bump up the light a lot because it seems to go kind of dark. So yes, and the reason we have old iPhones is my husband works in mobile app development, so he has to have different kinds to test on. And I just happened to get to mooch it for Monday afternoons. All right, that did look painted. But many ways to fix that. I'll come back over that with this other color. I also like the iPhone because I actually have it like it's about 2 inches above his scythe blade at the moment. And I can angle it a bit, so it's more from my point of view than I was able to figure out how to do with the other camera, which I figure is helpful to, putting whatever I'm doing with the brush and stuff in context if you're seeing it pretty close to the way I'm seeing it. Maybe I won't flip it. I'll just try to be careful. But yeah, that's pretty light. I probably will go back over that and blend it in a little. But hopefully the idea of it will still kind of be there, suggesting the texture differences, I guess, if that makes sense. Oh, I was going to do a couple of the scratches on the armor, so I'll just do a little darker again, it's still the same paint. I just increase the paint to water amount to make it darker. Same color is actually what I want for the dark part of the scratches anyway. Oh, these poor brushes, some of them look like they've been through the wars. All right, so let's see. These ones look fairly obvious, I think. So generally, the dark line towards the light and the light line next to it, I guess is how I would put it, maybe. Honestly, I didn't stress too much. And when there's a corner, I tend to assume that it went through at least a little to the other side. Be somewhere It's not quite as dark or quite as light because it's not as big of a ding. I had already put these in, but then I was bumping up the redness. My initial red wasn't very red. And while I didn't want it to be very red, I wanted it to be a little bit red. So I ended up going over a lot of the little lines and stuff that I'd already done, and there's probably still, I'm probably still going to mess with this some more. I need to do a glaze at least to get the blue back in the shiny. Well, not shiny, I guess, kind of. So like not gloss, but is it satin, I guess, is the next one down if you're picking out house paint. Because I don't think leather this old is going to be super shiny. But I want it to have a little bit of sheen. And then, I don't know, it doesn't look like the light side got messed up quite as much. Probably should have done this before my paint started to get a little crusty. But why be logical? Oops, that's actually not light side, that's dark side. Well, shadow section. Here it looks like, and this one wasn't uniform throughout. You can kind of make when it's on the edge like that, you can kind of make it look like it really is a cut. If you get the right mix of dark and light. I mean, some of these probably are sculpted in, but I wanted to, I let the texturing process decide where I'm put some other ones. Oh, and I don't think I need to fix this, but just in case. We'll check on the shadowed underhangs. Yes, it's going to be very much fun painting these gems, and I wonder if I should go ahead and do it before I paint the hair. I was kind of thinking of doing the hair next, but maybe I need to do in there, which would require me to make the non-metallic or metallic decision that I'm trying to put off. Alas. I don't know if any of you have a vote. You can let me know. I admit that I am going to retain veto power on that one, since it's not just for streaming. Okay, I'm much happier with the armor now. I think it actually does look a little reddish, which it did not when we started. Where are we time-wise? We're almost there. I shall torture Quindy only long enough to put the lines back on the panels on the back. And then I will wrap up, and Quindy will find us someone to raid. And I suspect that I will be back next week with this guy. I think it's an interesting change of pace for me to work on, and I would be super shocked if I was done by then, since I kind of have to parcel out my sitting and painting a bit. But anything is possible. They say. All right, so we made progress on the armor. Well, the armor's almost done, I hope. Aside from the spiky bits, I mean. We got a lot of the handle in. And I wrote a note to myself to remember to fix the bone. Or to actually paint some there, because it started out black earlier today. Quindy says he's looking great. Good, I'm glad you like it. And I think I am now starting to get enough information where I can figure out, you know, how light to take the bone on the shadow side. Unfortunately, no cats have come back, or I would switch over to cat cam. I think they all crept away after their dinners and slept, or I think if they were smacking each other around, I would hear that. But Quindy will find us a raid, and I'll be back next week. And as ever, if you have any requests for future show topics, feel free to drop in chat or send me a DM or whatever. And thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. We're going to be rating Askren Art. Say hi, spread the Reaper love, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.